Welcome to Rauta's Underground Trio episode. This time it's all about Finland and Finnish metal music. However, all these three different releases which I have here in my hand, they were first of all gotten for free from the label for review purposes. I didn't pay any of these. These need to be mentioned. And secondly, these are all different genres. Some of them are very, very new. Some of them have more experience. But let's first go through alphabetical order, and then let's go in worst to best order according to my own opinion. Totally feel free to disagree. Your opinion is different from mine. Let's make it clear already. First, Bloody Moon. This band is made by teenagers, so very, very fresh band still. Lost and Damned, the second album by the band. Then we have a band called Kaksonen, which can be translated as Twin. This is a band with more history, about 20 years, give or take. You know, with few demos and stuff. And if I remember correctly, this is the third album so far. And then we have another newcomer, Mourniaty. And this is their first album, Musta, Black Earth. And now, let's go from worst to best. And mind you, these are all different styles, different genres even. So comparing them to one another is not that easy. But hey, we'll go with the whatever is in hands. First, we'll go in the world of Kaksonen with their new album Valo-olento. Light being light, not referring to any kind of a weight, but you know, actual light as opposed to darkness. You get it. Very simplistic, but still decent looking digipack. Black and white design on CD, black and white design in terms of this digipack. When it comes to lyrical content, everything is so small that I cannot really read any of this without glasses. Yes, I'm old enough to have reading glasses. You just never see them because I never use them unless I'm actually reading something. So here it is, very, very basic, stripped down digipack release, which is in so many ways very typical full album. I mean, it's not exactly extra lengthy or short, just the kind of a basic stuff with these 8 tracks and all. Now, musically, the band has changed quite a bit throughout the years. What started as a death thrash kind of a thing started evolving already by their first album, which I heard a few years ago, to something like Finnish rock music played in metallic ways. Yes, you have a little bit of thrashiness in the music, but death metal is fully gone. And that first album was, in fact, quite bad. Not super bad, but less than mediocrity for sure. And I was just wondering why, or more like how come this promising death thrash band, which was decent, by the way, during the first 2 demos I got to review back in the days, how they changed their music to something like Finnish rock music with metallic touch. Now, I didn't hear the second album, which came in 2023, but according to my colleague, it was very good. Now, I don't know, the style hasn't still changed from the first album, and it's pretty much what's still happening here. A lot of these stuff, especially with the clean vocals and all, it's more like Finnish rock music played with some metallic things or ways. You hear certain seasoning of thrashiness along the ways, which gives this a little bit more metallic edge, but we can hardly talk about any kind of extreme metal. I mean, if you consider Metallica's latest endeavors, like 2000s whatever, as thrash or extreme metal, well, then you can consider this one as well. But I would say this is thrash metal with quotation marks, because in fact this is very, very lightweight in terms of metal. Maybe you can consider it kind of a heavy metal, but that would kind of put you in the box of thinking, you know, classic heavy metal bands, which this doesn't really have anything to do with. Musically, you know, these guys can do what they are doing. Can't really complain about their technical skills or whatnot. You know, they can handle their instruments and all, and production is fine, but musically this rubs me totally the wrong way. However, it is clearly better than the debut album, but still very, very mediocrity, and as such, the first in the pile here. Can only recommend if you like Finnish rock music, and nothing beyond that. Then we have this Bloody Moon, which is not exactly a great name for a band. Kind of a, I don't know, I'm thinking this may be too much in British West. Bloody hell, like a cursing word. Bloody Moon doesn't sound like a moon of blood. That would be Bloody Moon, but more like, oh, bloody hell, I'm out of beer. Anyway, these guys seem to be very young. At least their Metal Archives side promo pictures makes this guy look like they're 16 or whatever. Maybe that's a little bit older, because if you look at these guys, they have aged a bit. I saw also some of their pictures in social media, and seems like maybe these guys are now in their 20s or whatever. Young in the game still, and while they can totally handle their instruments well, that's pretty much the only real good thing I can say about it. Production-wise, this sounds quite demo-ish. It does its job, doing the music, which is kind of a melodic death metal with thrashiness in the mix. So I can't really complain about them. Like, hey, you can play, you can do your stuff with decent vocals, but production-wise, it really gives me the indication like you're still doing a demo, right? You get it while you're doing your second album. It's not like it sounds bad, but let's be honest about it. This kind of production could have been making waves maybe 40 years ago. 35, I don't know. Death metal was already showcasing a lot of really strong production values back in the day, so this seems like it's very, very late. Especially in the mid-90s, you had this bump up with the production and all, and even a lot of demos back in the days sounded better than this sounds. So while this is not sounding exactly weak, it compared to a lot of albums, demo-ish it is. Now musically, this combines those melodic death metal riffs from the 90s to something like even older thrasher feelings. Those thrasher parts are in fact quite interesting, and it almost got me like interested in this stuff, but there are a couple of things which rub me the wrong way in addition to the production. The first thing is there's this kind of almost like hip-hop level of like, yeah, we're the baddies. We are not afraid of anybody. Kind of like, hey, come on, you're 20s. You barely got your balls down. And you probably have your sounding like, vocal sounding like adults. So get the fuck out of here. You're not badasses, even if you're adding some, curse words in the mix. So that kind of makes this, guys, you have this juvenile take on it. If you don't mind that, however, you will find that the songwriting is a little bit like hit and miss. There are ideas where you feel like, okay, these guys were too much into Pantera. Nothing wrong with Pantera, but when you combine that to melodic death metal, and then again with thrasher parts, it's almost like it's all over the place. So to me, it seems like rather than doing a demo, they had a bunch of ideas and then they're forcing them together, which makes this little bit of a mess. As a demo, decent. As a second album, not so much. But if you like supporting young guys, nothing wrong with that. And you don't care about the quality, go for it. For me, too much mediocrity in the game to really, vouch for it. So the best of the pile goes to this new black metal band from Finland. They are not, old, only a few years under the belt, and as far as I could see, nothing really sounded like they had demos or whatever. So singles before this one, I guess. And as you might have noticed, these are all done by Inverse Records, which is known for having variety of different record deals, from self-financed things but with their production and printing and all, to something like maybe they also do real record deals. I don't know what's the truth these days, but among my colleagues it was known, or at least assumed to know, for many, many years that Inverse Records is basically label for those bands who want to go self-financed but want some kind of distribution and proper packaging without handling at all by themselves. Don't know if it's true, but there is some kind of a black shadow looming around Inverse Records for that reason. None of these albums are exactly very good. Mourniaty has, however, more experience under the belt, it seems, and they already have figured out how to do a decent album. I wouldn't call it great, because none of these ideas resonate with me that much, but at least they are a couple of steps ahead of those other bands which I mentioned. Musically, this is like mid-tempo black metal with some synthesizer, maybe dominating, and some Very, very Finnish sounding stuff. But this Finnish sound is not like, the bands like Hornebeeks and Sargeist, what have you, but more like things like ajattara. And that is then again emphasized with the Finnish way of singing, Finnish language and all. And there is something with this mid-tempo kind of a evil lurking around kind of a feeling, which definitely gives this ajattara feeling. It's up to the listener whether or not you consider this better or worse than ajattara. I would roughly put them in the same box, same level too. Production-wise, solid. Can't really bitch about the sound and all. I mean, it's pretty strong. The guys' experience kind of seeps through, and clearly they know what they are doing. But songwriting-wise, it's not there yet. It's very typical first album. Like, you have the ideas, you know how to execute them, but you don't know yet how to write interesting songs, in my opinion anyway. But like I said, it's fairly decent of an album, so if this pile clearly the most deserving your attention and listening. But obviously up to you. If you like mid-tempo black metal with a little bit of keyboards in the mix, give this one a go. But expect more ajattara than Gehenna for that matter. Now, as always, links are included in the description box, so if I got you interested in any of these, give them a go. Oh, one thing worth mentioning, while these are all 2025 releases, Kaksonen was already out in the 17th of October, the very day I'm filming this. This was a little bit later in October, but already out by the time this video comes out. But Mourniaty is, I think, around 7th of November, so not out yet by the time when this video comes out, but you will be able to hear it in some format or another, even if not at the very day I'm doing this video or putting it out, I mean. But give them a go if you feel like checking them out, and now you know a little bit more. Thanks for your time, and looking forward to your comments if you have heard any of these. Now, off you go, stay metal.